Like most people, I have a major weakness for sympathetic bad guys, and to an extent, Dooku is no exception to that. The legendary Jedi Master turned Sith Lord and leader of the CIS has had to deal with plenty of loss and pain that many of us, I'm sure, would not envy. We know from watching Anakin's fall to the dark side that many of these dark side wielders and Sith Lords do not begin their journey as an evil person. Dooku and Anakin started off in relatively admirable standing, and with many Jedi looking up to them as prime examples of warriors of good and light. But as the old saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and once you get to hell, as Anakin and the subject of this particular video have demonstrated, you are capable of doing and believing in some pretty horrible things. One of the biggest misconceptions about Dooku is that he was a misunderstood servant of the galaxy, a man that truly believed he needed to make the galaxy a better place because he saw the corruption and apathy from the Republic and Jedi Order respectively eroding so many people's lives. The tricky thing about this is that he was right when he talked about these things. A proud warrior, a political idealist, a man whose convictions may have caused him to butt heads with the rest of the council, quality that his own apprentice Qui-Gon would inherit as well, but everyone conceded that he meant well. Despite his pretentious air, he proved himself capable of genuine friendship and camaraderie, and he became close with his estranged sister Jenza that he had not seen since he was a child before going to the Jedi Temple. He also developed a strong bond with his apprentice Qui-Gon Jinn, who would take after him in so many ways and eventually possess a better understanding of the Force than almost any other Jedi alive. You do not get trained by Yoda, the Grand Master of the Order, and not be a one-of-a-kind Jedi and a one-of-a-kind man. In his days as a Jedi Knight, Dooku was an impressive man with admirable moral qualities and a keen eye for politics. A man like this could achieve great things for the galaxy's future. It's why leaving the Jedi Order was considered so devastating. The Republic and its leaders were either corrupt, didn't care, were too arrogant, or were a combination of the three, and the galaxy suffered as a result. Dooku's time with the Jedi Order introduced him to their own issues. Their apparent willingness to protect the Republic's flawed system of government was a flaw that Dooku was right to point out. This new stance he took on the Republic and the Jedi was one that, coupled with the grievances of the thousands of worlds that had seceded from the Republic, created the necessary catalyst for the Separatist crisis to be born eventually. But here's the brutal truth about Dooku after he fell. He was not a good man. He was no longer a man who cared about the well-being of all of the galaxy. Dooku was the apprentice of one of the most morally bankrupt Sith Lords to ever live, Darth Sidious, and he had dreams of a new order. An order that would put the Sith at the top of everything, destroy the Jedi Order, and subjugate the entire galaxy, bending them to their will. He was a man whose greed and lust for power dominated every aspect of his existence. He wasn't reluctantly committing crimes for his master's approval. With the Clone Wars, he orchestrated the deaths of millions of innocent people so that he and his master could rule what remained. His actions during the Clone Wars alone would warrant a war crimes trial, killing countless innocent civilians like he did in the opening chapter of Dark Disciple, when he ordered the destruction of Republic ships evacuating with thousands of civilian refugees. His actions demonstrate that he was immoral, unforgiving, greedy, and possessed an air of arrogance that he always had, but turned up to extraordinary heights once he gave himself to the dark side. But like Anakin, it would not be entirely fair to place all of who he is squarely on his own shoulders, for Palpatine had been in Dooku's ear for years before he had even surrendered to the dark side entirely, intending on using him to bring forth the Clone Wars. But also like Anakin, it is important for the one doing the bad things to hold a large portion, even a majority, of the responsibility for their actions. And Dooku has even less of an excuse than Anakin did, for Dooku was an adult when Palpatine manipulated him, whereas Anakin was a child. I know we like looking for reasons to feel bad about the villain. It genuinely does add to a story when the villain isn't just evil for the sake of being evil, though occasionally it's done perfectly. But it is extremely important to differentiate the eras of Dooku's life. It's not that it's two different people, but Dooku is not the same man at the end of the Clone Wars that he was when he mourned Qui-Gon, or when he left the Jedi Order, or even when he deleted the Camino records from the Jedi archives. Dooku's life and moral compass changed significantly over his life, and while his general goal of creating a greater galaxy perhaps never changed, what certainly did change was what he meant by a greater galaxy, and how he was willing to achieve that. By the end of the Clone Wars, Dooku was a shell of the man he was decades earlier. He was not the man that Yoda himself trained because of the potential he saw in him. He was a man that had completely lost his way, willing to kill any who would prove a threat to his goal of more power, even the sister he had once loved. Corrupted by the dark side of the Force and pushed along and manipulated by a man who had no intention of keeping him around much longer than necessary, Dooku, the man capable of caring for others, the man who truly believed in working towards a good change for the galaxy, a lasting change for the galaxy, the man who even Yoda considered the very best of the Jedi Order, was gone. All that remained from the moment he struck down Jedi Master Yaddle until right before Palpatine betrayed him was Darth Tyrannus. We see Dooku in his final moments after being defeated by Anakin Skywalker aboard the Invisible Hand and betrayed by his friend and master, Palpatine, that he was shocked and somewhat resigned to his fate. But I wonder if, before Anakin finished the job, he had any regret. I wonder if he realized how far he had fallen for nothing. All of the betrayals, turning his back on both his Jedi family and his biological family, ordering the deaths of thousands at a time, orchestrating a war that would ultimately claim millions, and bring forth an even more oppressive system of government that would ultimately claim many millions more. If I could ask him one question before the blades crossed him one final time, it would be, was it worth it? Perhaps his eyes gave us the answer. Alas, we'll never know the answer to how he felt, his level of guilt, if he had any at all. The answer died with him. But his story lives on and serves as an example of what the dark side does to a man with even the most stalwart principles. You can have impeccable manners, be charismatic, and make one or two good points about the issues our world faces. But in Dooku's case, it's not the makeup of a misguided and sympathetic man. It's a front, and it always was. A mask meant to throw us off before he does exactly what you refuse to acknowledge he's willing to do. As a Jedi, our outlooks on who Dooku was had plenty of solid truth to back it up. As a Sith, it is obvious that he is not good. The dark side corrupts absolutely, and with Dooku there is no exception. Perhaps back then, he truly did believe in these things. In the years leading up to his fall, maybe he did truly want to change things for the better. Maybe a Jedi Order more willing to listen to him could have assisted in ensuring that Dooku did not feel like he needed to leave. Could have, would have, should have. Or maybe not. I made this video primarily in response to the consistent number of people in the real world who believe that within Dooku was a genuine hope for change. And I realized that this is precisely how Dooku got so many to join his fake cause within the universe as well. He manipulated us, just like he manipulated the galaxy. That is who Dooku is at the end of his life. A servant of the dark side. An immoral, greedy, corrupt Sith Lord within the shell of a man who once had principles.